Thank you so much, Joe, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. First, let's give our Master of Ceremonies a great round of applause. And thank you as well, of course, to VMI and their amazing regimental band, to the Roanoke Symphony Orchestra, to our wonderful student readers, to the Virginia Sons of the American Revolution as well. Thank you all for making this a special day. And today is a day of firsts. It's the opening of the 3 Revolutionary War exhibits that the director of the museum talked with us about, the official ribbon cutting of the VA250 Mobile Museum Experience, and the public premiere of the VA250 Fanfare, the wonderful musical fanfare you heard the Roanoke Symphony Orchestra play, was accomplished just for Virginia and the 250, composed by David Chase, a Virginia resident, but of Broadway. All of these events here today, all of these firsts, are part of Virginia 250's commitment to educate all Virginians and Americans, to engage with every community and every locality, and ultimately to inspire a spirit of civic renewal. Today we commemorate the 15 Virginians who declared for the first time that they were willing to give their lives for an idea. It is clear when you listen to those students who read the resolution so bracingly that these 15 Virginians did not want war, they did not feel disloyal, and yet they felt the idea of liberty, of humanity endowed by their Creator, was so important that they were willing to give their lives. Think about the magnitude of that. Willing to die for the ideas of liberty and rights of humanity endowed by God. The following year, another Virginian, Thomas Jefferson, would crystallize the sentiments of the Fincastle Resolutions into these immortal words, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Fincastle Resolutions, in addition to declaring their willingness to die, also spoke at some length about encounters with indigenous peoples. And in these resolutions, they describe the indigenous peoples as savages. But we now know there was savagery on both sides, just as there was peacekeeping on both sides. The lives of indigenous peoples were not always better after the arrival of the colonists, and independence from Britain made many of their lives far worse. And yet, the ideas, the power of the ideas that 15 frontiersmen were willing to die for, also inspired many indigenous Virginians to take up arms alongside their colonist neighbors against the British, just as it inspired so many of the enslaved to do the same. And these ideas of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, of equality, of inalienable rights, these ideas have inspired everyone, everywhere, ever since. Sometimes history delivers a day of perfect symmetry. And January 20th is such a day. January 20th, 2025 is such a day of symmetry. January 20th, 1775, the Fincastle Resolutions are endorsed. On January 20th, we celebrate Martin Luther King, a man who preached and protested against injustice and inequality, but mostly he is remembered and celebrated because he inspired every American to live up to our highest ideals and form a more perfect union. And January 20th is also when we will celebrate the peaceful transition of power from one president to the next, a precious legacy bequeathed to us by yet another Virginian, George Washington, who stepped aside from a presidency he could have held for life and declared that 2 terms was quite enough. Why does all this matter? Why do we sort of huddle together here in the cold? Thank goodness for the sunshine. But why do we huddle here together to talk about the past? Because if we do not know who we are, if we do not know who we come from, where and what we come from, and how we came to be, then we do not know who we are. We know this at our core. It is why we gather around family dinner tables and talk about the people who came before us, who and what came before us, how we came to be, so that we understand better who we are in the present and who we can be in the future. This is true in our families, but it is true of our Commonwealth, and it is true of our nation. If we do not know our history, then we do not know why we are Americans. We do not know why we are unique, exceptional, the only nation in all of human history and across the entire planet, the only nation created not on territory or ethnicity or on religion, but on ideas and ideals. We need to know who we are and where we come from in order to understand why we are Americans. It is important, not just for our families, not just for our communities, but for our nation. And our nation, America, our nation, was started here in Virginia, fueled here, fought here, and finished here. Its greatest leaders were born on Virginian soil. Its most sacred ideals were shaped in our hills and valleys, and its stories are everywhere you look. 250 years ago, 13 colonies joined together to create a nation like no other in history, but one led the way. Virginia has always been the crucible of our nation. America was made in Virginia. You may be from Botetourt County, such as Chair Austin is, or you may be from Fairfax County, such as I am. You may be a New Yorker, a Floridian, or a Nebraskan. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you look like. It does not matter whether you can trace your lineage all the way back to the American Revolution or you just became a citizen last year. If you believe in the promise of America, in individual liberty and equality before God, then Virginia is where you come from, because this is where those ideas were born and raised. This is where a dream of freedom became a nation destined to achieve it. Here in Virginia, you aren't simply making a journey to Roanoke or Jamestown or Williamsburg or Mount Vernon or Monticello. You're coming home to the state that started it all. And so I close by saying to all, whether we are come heres or from heres, America, welcome home.